So, welcome to TLC Unfiltered with myself, Emmanuel Sonubi.
And me, Ian Murphy.
Today we are joined by Lisa Forte, talking everything tech.
And the title of today's show is No One Is Coming to Help.
A nice upbeat title to kick this series off. So, Lisa, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Good stuff. So, today's
It's
title...
like good stuff.
What do you mean?
Didn't say anything.
I said good stuff.
Good stuff. There's no content
He's on my
there.
payroll.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
She brought the stuff in earlier.
Thanks for the good stuff.
And
Yeah.
that's...
You're welcome.
Normally there's a sentence and then someone goes, right, that was some good stuff. She just said a name.
Yeah, but...
My name is good though.
It's all right.
I mean, it's better than...
It's no Emmanuel Sonubi.
Yeah,
No,
it's
it's-
not. No, it's true.
It's better than Murphy, though, right?
Yeah. Most
Yeah.
things are though, to be fair.
Most things
No,
are.
she's right.
I mean, if I turn up with the name Murphy, people just think I'm tarmacking the drive, right?
I think Farrier, actually.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's because you keep horses, right?
Yeah.
And you have a stable of them. But we'll get to that eventually, why you have a stable of horses, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Interestingly enough, as a kid, the only time I ever saw a horse was when I stood outside the cop, and it was a police horse. It was the only time I ever saw a horse as a kid, because you don't really see them on the streets of Liverpool, apart from the gypsies. Apart from the gypsies that turn up collecting iron and stuff like that. But that's the only other time I saw a horse. Just apropos of nothing, really.
So, as I said at the beginning, we'll be discussing all things tech.
Right, today's title. Okay, so we're going to talk about nobody coming to help, right? We're going to talk about the industry that we all work in, that we've all worked in, IT, security, technology, and the issue of how it seems that when there's a breach, when there's an attack, when there's anything like that, our industry seems to look from the outside in to point fingers with perfect 20/20 hindsight. And you've seen this yourself at first hand, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the online community in tech and cyber loves a good pile-on, regardless of what it's about. If they can throw something at other people, then I think that's the sort of peak of enjoyment for the vast majority of people.
That's a lot of the first things that happen, right? You're right. You look at any breach, and rather than the first thing being, how can we stop this? The first thing is, whose fault is it?
Yeah.
Who are we blaming for this? Let's blame them, and then we can sort it out. Because it's like once you blame someone and they're gone, you can kind of start again. People don't think, how are you actually going to remediate this in the first place?
Yeah.
And why do you think that is in the tech industry? Because what drove the idea of this is part of your background in the caving side of things. So we'll get to some interesting facts about you in a bit. But part of your background, when there was a recent incident where a caver got trapped underground, well, and that's exactly where a caver would get trapped, right?
In Sainsbury's.
Yeah, exactly. In an underground car park. Just couldn't reverse out. Couldn't find reverse. But 400 of the community turned up, right? Mm-hmm. I think it was a cave. Was it in Wales or was it Yorkshire? I can't remember.
I think it was in Wales, yeah.
Yeah. So 400 people turned up to help and get this person out. I can't imagine the same thing happening to security, because we seem to have a bunch of talking heads who just want to get on the news and tell them how they would have done it differently.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in both the climbing and caving community, there's a really, really big feeling and sentiment, I guess, that we're all here to help each other. And if someone's in trouble, we'll abandon what we're doing and come and help them. And that's that sense of community that I just don't think exists in tech. I think we like to say it exists, where we're like, oh, what a great community we have. This is brilliant. But actually, when push comes to shove, everyone just runs away, or they actually become and sort of attack you and attack what you're doing and what your team is doing to remediate an incident. So I think it actually ends up not really being much of a community at all when you really need a community.
Yeah. I think as well, because you say about people that should run towards and help, and they don't in tech, and a lot of that is because those people don't want the blame.
Yeah, that's true.
Because there'll be something that happens, and while people are a bit right, once you start helping, your name's on that document as part of the chain that had something to do with it. And if it goes wrong, you're now, I might get blamed, so I want to be as far away from it as I possibly can.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you imagine, though, if the people did turn up at the cave just to blame him? He's trapped.
Dave, what have you done?
It's your own fault, Dave.
And point out where he went wrong. That carabiner that you've got on is just not fit for purpose,
Look, mate, I know you've got a broken leg, but I just want to point out a few things that you did wrong.
So before we get into the meat of this, let's have a little bit of a deeper dive into you. Now that sounds really wrong, right? I fully understand that. I fully understand.
You hear it after
you
say
you
it.
hear yourself.
Let's both of us dive into you.
It sounded better in my head, I'll be quite honest with you. So let's give the audience 3 things that they probably should know about you, right? So the 3 things that I think I know you for, from not just being a friend, but the social media presence as well, is the crisis management that you do, right? A lot of talks on crisis management, working with a lot of organisations, but also as well your hobbies and your pastimes. So we've already spoke about caving. So the idea of going into deep and dark places. We're doing it again. It sounds better in my head. And then
I could make this worse, but I won't.
Yeah,
Do it.
And then the final bit of mountaineering. So not only do you want to go underground, you want to go climb to the top of the world as well. So you're an absolute nutcase, right?
Yeah, I'm mental.
Yeah, yeah. You're an absolute nutcase. But give us
this.
one thing that people probably don't know about you.
Okay.
And we can't even verify whether this will be true or not, right?
That's true. It is true, though.
Okay.
So over the pandemic, I've become more than mildly obsessed with raccoons. Yeah, you didn't think I was going to say that, did you?
I mean, that's how of
What you got?
everything.
I've never even seen one that wasn't in a cartoon. Where did you see?
Google them.
Is that how
they
you-
have hands?
Is that what you were Googling over the pandemic?
Pretty
Which
much.
animals
almost.
have hands?
Not entirely just.
How
that,
did this
but
start?
I think a GIF on Twitter, and I was like, wow, he's washing something with his hands. He was washing something in a bowl, and then it just kind of led on from there. And just Google, it's like a whole rabbit hole of stuff. But go check it out; they're amazing.
Was it his own kitchen that he was in?
I think they can be kept as pets. I'm looking into this because I don't think the UK government are like hugely keen on them coming over here. But you know,
Oh, there's a surprise.
in keeping with all the other policies.
Interesting. If there was one thing I was going to write down off the top of my head about anything, it wouldn't have included
I know.
raccoons.
I knew it, and that's why I threw it in
So
there.
what does your daily raccoon search look like? What kind of things have you seen raccoons do and you're like, I need to...
Raccoons like eating popcorn on a sofa, just with their hands, grooming other people's pets with their hands. They're super smart.
What would be smarter? And you keep referring to the hands, but what would be smart if they were grooming other people's pets with like grooming brushes?
That
with
would
the
all,
hands?
that, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
potentially that's out there. I just love that both of you are semi-lost for words here. So I think that's a
no,
point
you
to
lost
me.
for words.
Nailed
I'm
it.
dumbstruck. So should we get to some kind of questions, right? Should we leave the raccoons behind? Because we could talk all day about raccoons, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So let's do the first one. So, Dom Forte, which I believe is what you insist on being called, right? Who have you made an offer to recently that they couldn't refuse?
God, who have I made an offer to recently that couldn't refuse? Oh, Ian.
Yeah, I thought we weren't going to talk about that.
Yeah.
My wife may be listening to this podcast.
She's listening to this podcast.
Oh, right, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Good.
It's fine. Yeah, I made an offer to you to come and be on a game show. And you couldn't refuse because it wasn't really posed as a question. It was more a demand.
So what is your role? What is it that you do?
The main thing that I do is run crisis simulations for companies. So we simulate that they've had a cyber attack or data breach and how they look at how they sort of manage that, make decisions, or don't make decisions depending on the company. And then we write a report on how well they did and how they can improve that.
Do you ever include the police? Because I did a lot of work with crisis management, so cybersecurity, data protection, intrusion prevention, and things like that. And one thing that always came across was that companies never contacted the police, which is really weird. Because you think if your house gets broken into, you call the police. You don't try and fix it yourself.
Right.
Whereas a lot of companies, and the police actually do have a resource there to aid in something like this, but a lot of companies don't. Is that something that you've ever looked at, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think actually in my experience, they don't want to tell the police, they don't want to tell the ICO, they don't want to tell the public, I think.
Yeah, so would that be dependent on the company then? Because obviously the bigger profile you have, the bigger news that's going to be.
True, and also I think like if you're in a regulated sector,
Yeah.
then you might have some more requirements to do that. But even then, when I've run stuff with financial houses, they very much kind of like, well, do we really know? If we don't know that we've had the breach, then we don't really start the clock running on the ICO, so we can't, and the lawyers kind of get involved and try and stretch the limits of how long we can keep this quiet. And I think that comes back to the original point at the beginning of the podcast, right? About how, and essentially, if you have a breach or a cyber attack, there isn't going to be good press. You know, that's never going to be, oh, well, you know, those poor people who have had that attack, how can we help them? How can we support that company? Because we're all on the same team. It will be, what idiots, how did they have such terrible security? And so you're sort of feeding into it.
Isn't that weird though? 'Cause you think, imagine your house gets burgled, and then everyone's going, look at that idiot. Why didn't he put bars in his windows?
Yeah. Or you got mugged.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
and
someone...
and it's your fault.
Yeah.
Why can't he? Why doesn't he know karate? How comes he didn't win that fight? Like,
why didn't she have a knife on her?
Exactly. You would never blame the victim in any other scenario. No. But then this happens and everyone piles on.
Yeah. And I think it's the same for individuals. If you lose access to your Instagram, people are like, why was your password terrible? Why didn't you have this set up? They're not like, oh, you poor thing, that must be so traumatizing for you or so awful for you.
But I think it talks to a wider thing in life anyway, where outside of security there's compassion and empathy mostly. There's always going to be some idiot who wants to point a finger and make fun of stuff, which is, you know, you can't get away from that as human beings, but we will make mistakes. We are carbon-based idiots, right? We're all of that. But it just seems if that happened in a daily life, right? If we got, say, phished, or we fell prone to a phishing attack or ransomware or anything like that, and we took that into daily life. Imagine teaching your kid to cross the road, right? Imagine teaching your children to cross the road, and you've walked them by the hand, and you've crossed them a road, stop, look, listen, all that stuff, and you've told them twice to do that. This is how security approaches, or how technology approaches things. You're not going to tell them a third time because you're too busy to tell them a third time. If they don't get it the third time, they're idiots. They don't. And then you're just going to leave a 6-year-old kid to wander across a busy road on their own. You wouldn't do that in everyday life.
No.
So why do we do it? Why do we do it in security? Is it because we're all too self-important? Is it because we get to a certain level? Is it at some point in security, does somebody go, right, that's it, you're at a certain level now, I'm taking the compassion and the empathy away from you, now go and be an arsehole? Is that essentially how we do it? Because I think that talks to the point of why we don't have a community. We don't have a community that's supportive of each other.
No, I think it goes back to the question of blame.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you what you need to know, and then you're on your own. And once I've done that part, everything you do from this point forward is your fault.
Yeah.
And then it just shields that person, that individual, away from it.
Yeah.
And now they're like, my job's safe.
And does that talk to a compliance culture then? Because they've told you, they've ticked that box, so you're on your own then, right?
Yeah, I do think so. And there's so many different compliances that all either coexist or they conflict. There's things that you to do. You think ISO 27001. There's things you have to do to be compliant from that one. But then GDPR comes along and they start conflicting. It's like, right, which one? I'm just trying to tick as many boxes as I can, just so I don't have to deal with it or push it. So that's the thing. You think how many IT managers have got vast teams that they just have to manage, but it's one of those where you're saying this is your job, and you have to do it.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, then that's why everyone now will make sure everything's on email. So there's a trail of I told him to do it and he didn't do it.
Yeah.
It's not my fault.
Yeah.
As a community, we also spend a lot of on time online, more so than I think other professions do. We're very online focused, and I think that ends up contributing to this pile-on culture. And if you look at Twitter, you know, if you browse Twitter even just for 30 minutes and you see the sorts of things people are posting, it's not like moderated. It's like language they're using such as like, this is disgusting, this is gross, this is unbelievable. It's not like normal language like we're using now. It's hugely dramatized language. So it's kind of taking everything completely off into this dramatic world of just clickbait, essentially, I guess.
And you're right, it's not regulated at all. You can go and say anything you want, and especially if you voice it articulately, it sounds more believable. So people want to read this disgusting. What's disgusting? Let me go and read it. And then all of a sudden, like, you think how easy it is to go up. I've written white papers that have gone onto LinkedIn, but no one goes to check them. But if they're written in a way that sounds believable, you're going to believe it, you're going to share it, then that document becomes fact.
Yeah. And the title is catchy enough.
Yeah.
People will just...
Yeah, it's... I generally don't go on Twitter, right? I generally don't go on Twitter because there's so much whataboutery on Twitter, which leads to shithousery on Twitter as well, where people just hide behind... They'll throw a bomb and then just move on to something else. And I just can't follow that conversation. I just can't get involved in... Because... I'm 50 now, right? I know I don't look it. Thank
53,
you very much.
53.
I'm 50, I told you. I'm 50. I've been that for 3 years. Don't start doing that business. But there's still something inside of me when somebody says a negative comment. I've done it again, haven't I? I've done it again. It sounds better in my head.
What's inside of you, man? What's inside of you?
I thought we weren't going to talk about that. There's still something inside me, even as a 50-year-old, when somebody says a negative comment, the Scouser wants to come out, right? And it wants to come out and find out where they are and where they live and turn up on their doorstep and say, now say to myself, say to my face, dickhead. And that's the danger of, I think I do myself more harm than being on Twitter because of that. I don't mind other social media platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook, and slightly more professional from a LinkedIn point of view.
I posted on LinkedIn about trolling, didn't I, recently?
Yeah.
And then I got trolled on my post about trolling.
And
so
exactly
cool.
that's what I was leading into so for me, my comfort zone is I'll just batter you if you say something negative. I'm not going to because I can't fight sleep, but in my mind that's how I rationalise it. How do you rationalise that stuff online?
To be honest, I think it's really moderated what I post. And I was having this conversation with a friend this morning about thinking 2, 3, 4 times before I hit post on something now. So thinking like, if I post this meme, is it going to be somehow interpreted in this bizarre way where I've caused offence to some group of people who clearly I wasn't intending on or even contemplating it would cause offence to? And I think now, I think the shame of that is that there's so much stuff that I think, oh, I want to comment on it. Oh, I'm not going to comment on this because it's not worth the grief. And like that post I put on LinkedIn that you helped me out on with a certain gentleman who, ended up with his argument talking about how I was like Hitler or something. Anyway, you post something like that you think is going to do some good, and then you end up getting trolled on it. And like you and I have said before, everyone who says, "Oh, just don't read the negative comments," that's not a strategy. Or people who say, "Just block the person," also not a strategy. Like if someone says that to me, I just think you have never been trolled in your life, because if you think it's that easy, you've never experienced it.
See, that's an issue when writing stand-up comedy. You're trying to think 10 years ahead.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to do. It can't be done. You don't know. You think there is jokes that were written 20, 30 years ago which were hilarious by that standard, and they've changed to now. You cannot do it. And when it comes to because I think on one hand it's good that you should filter yourself.
Yeah.
And that my philosophy is I can say what I want, but my opinion is no more important than the feelings of someone else.
Yeah.
So I will filter through what I want to say, but then my comfort zone is very much what I think to myself, I know I'm not trying to cause offence, so I'm happy to put it out. If someone takes offence from it, that's not my fault. So I will go to say stuff, and if other people, like, I've had people like comment on the silliest of things, I'm like, that's your opinion, all right, I'm not going to do anything about it. If that's what you think, then that's what you think. And a lot of people now, they're not open to conversation. They're not going, I disagree, let's have a conversation about it. They're going, you're wrong. So now you going back to them is pretty much pointless because they're not open to hearing anything. They've got their point and they just want to scream at you till you stop talking. It's like people have gone from wanting to be heard to just shouting everything and not wanting to listen. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to stuff like trolling, like I don't look at anything. If I've got something that I feel is important enough for me to say out loud, then I'm going to say it. And then it's up to the world what they want to do with it. But as long as I'm okay within myself with my reason behind saying it, then all I'll try and do is filter its respect of make sure that what I want to hear is being heard. Because a lot of people aren't very good at that. What was that lady that she got in a load of crap because she said she was saying that everyone has got the same 24 hours in the day.
Oh yeah.
What was her name?
It was
Molly May. Molly May. So when she said that, and the thing is, I get what she was trying to say. It's just how she said it wasn't the best way for that to be heard. So everyone piled on top of her again. And she's saying we've all got time, like it is down to us. But the way she put it across, from her position as well, didn't come across well.
But it's offence or hate always comes from a bad place, right? It never comes from a good place. So if you're setting out to be offensive, you know you're setting out to do that to people. So that's always a bad place. It's almost as if everybody nowadays who's setting out to do that offensive side of things has become a kind of red top journalist and coming up with those terrible headlines that we suffered through the 80s and 90s, right?
But it's also like, I don't think they ever want to give you the opportunity to clarify. So just using that example, and I completely agree with you, I think, as you said, the context and the way she put it across was just clearly not going to go down well. However, instead of going, can you clarify what you mean by this? Because it comes across a bit like this. And then giving her an opportunity to be like, oh no, that's not what I meant like this. That doesn't happen. We don't have that dialogue. We just go, you said this, which means you're this, which means this has happened. And it just blows everything into this really horrible environment that I think leaves people either really fearful of posting anything online, which is a shame from the perspective of learning and enjoying social media, which has been important in the pandemic. But then also, I think it creates these kind of, I call them like armies of white knights that charge around social media, sort of avenging different causes, but essentially they're just being bullies.
And again, a lot of this still happens in tech. You think, again, and I do think it is the whole blame factor of everything that people aren't willing to have conversations about, right, how can we actually make things better? Because you think how many things have gone wrong within an industry or a company because there has been a breakdown of communication. No one's actually talking about anything.
Yeah. Which is where you normally trace most data breaches back, right? There's a breakdown in that process, which is a breakdown in the communication. Yes, it might be somebody's made a mistake and not done something, but that's when we then start getting back to that, pointing the finger at that one person. We don't want to address the fact that actually they're human. We could have all made that mistake.
No one blames the criminal. I just thought that. When you think that, so there's a saying that we used to use, or probably still use it when it comes to cybersecurity, where a company has to be lucky every day, whereas a criminal's only going to be lucky once. But no one ever goes like that. You've got someone whose whole existence is dedicated to breaking your stuff, and when they do it, you don't blame them. You blame the person. Like that's a weird. That's a weird concept.
And journalists pointing to the dumps of data online and going, this is where Lady Gaga's data is.
Well,
You're kind of
where is
facilitating
it?
this attack.
Where is it?
But
Lady
where
Gaga?
is that?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
on your hard drive.
Yeah,
It's
could
there.
you-
No, it's already downloaded.
Is it next to the raccoon folder?
Yeah. It's in the raccoon folder.
Is it? Oh, hang on.
That's code.
That wasn't a raccoon dress she was wearing that
No.
time. No.
No, different folder.
We knew we'd bring it back to raccoons, right?
So there's a question that I really want to ask. So you were once detained on charges of smuggling,
Ian,
right? Is that true?
no.
Was that a lie?
What?
Because you said that like it was. No, I didn't, officer. You did, didn't you? What were you smuggling?
Raccoons.
Which I think your hobby of caving is just an elaborate ruse, right? To mask your underworld persona
Yeah.
and the Don Forte. And
You
the old
created
mafia.
this, and now you're selling me out
Hang
for
on, hang on a
the
minute,
thing
hang on a
you
minute.
created
Don't
about
start
me.
pointing fingers. This is what this conversation's all about. Don't say you created it and start blaming me. I
create
had
it.
nothing to do with it.
I'm going to write a report about how you did create this
Did you? Is that how
and
it's
all the
going to go
things you could
down?
have done differently.
Yeah.
And do I then have to be repentant, or
No,
can I blame an intern?
Blame an intern.
Like, that's what I would do. Blame
Yeah.
it. Just send it down the hill.
Yeah.
Blame someone else.
That's how it works, right? Nothing sticks.
No.
So, but seriously, you have a past with the my two favourite terms for coppers: rozzers or busies, right? Rozzers if you're down south, busies if you're in Liverpool, right?
Okay. Yes.
From the term, quick run, it's the busies, right? Which was, and so so you have a past with them. Talk to us
It's
about
the
that.
busies.
It's the busies, yeah. Do you know?
No.
Because
Literally
it's
never
rozzers
heard
down
that.
here, right?
No.
It's the rozzers, the filth.
The old bill.
The old bill. Oh, yeah, okay. Because it's, yeah.
So you got nicked for smuggling drugs,
Sort of. I used to work for the police.
right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And is that where the crisis management comes from? You're not going to nick us, right? You're not going to stop and say to him, or just nick me because of my accent, are you?
I think I'd definitely arrest you.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. It's like
Your
that.
accent trumps
You-
all of this.
But
You
you
reckon?
planted
Yeah.
you planted the thing in the bag, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah. No. Nothing
All
to worry
right,
about. Don't forget your bag when you leave.
See, I would actually do that just for bants. That's how bad. 15 years in prison. Got ya! Classic, right? Oh, I can't believe you fell for it.
What do you mean a prostate exam? Just get that glove
I
clean
would
and
definitely
fluid
do
out.
that, just for a laugh, just to see if it was happening. Like,
It would be funny.
we're moving away from this. What happened? What drugs did you have on you? You went with the police and you were selling drugs on the side. I know this has gone really elaborate. Right?
Were you
Just
selling
keep it
drugs to
going.
raccoons? Is that what it was?
Yeah. I just have to keep saying yes, and you can keep coming up with different elements of the story.
Is that why they've got like hands that are all
Special
over the
hands.
place all the time?
Yes.
That's why they like the city.
Yes.
Right, so go. You were smuggling drugs for the
For
police
the raccoons.
to sell to the CIA. What happened?
You not just covered it? Or yeah, pretty much.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson caught you. There was a whole car chase.
Yeah, there was.
Right.
Colombia.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cartel.
Real nice. Yeah.
I really want to hear that. Do you know what? I really feel like the full story is going to be utter crap now.
There is no real story.
You didn't get caught.
No.
Were you detained?
No. I don't even know what's happening.
Is that what you said to the
This
police?
is like some sort of weird interview.
Tell us what you know. Can we get a light to shine right in her eyes? I'm going to waterboard her in a minute. I want to know what happened.
Yeah, no, nothing. I just work for the police in the cybercrime unit. That's the end of that, really.
So you
Not
weren't
very-
detained in Uruguay?
Well, yeah, I was detained in Uruguay, but after I came back from Brazil after the submarine incident, the one with the cocaine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, that one. Yeah, so after that, that's what got me into cyber. Why not? Just go for it.
I don't know if anybody else is feeling this, but this feels like an acid flashback. I'm going to be quite honest with you.
Where did this rumour come from then?
Him.
Oh, this is just you.
That's all him. All of it is him.
I read this and thought, this is going to be cool. We've got a smuggling story here.
Oh, no, I made that shit up.
Really sorry about this. Like, I read that with so much confidence, like, this is going to be great.
I'm personally now sorry I'm a disappointing guest.
You
I have
really
not
are.
smuggled anything.
You've done nothing.
Nothing. Literally achieved nothing with my
But
life.
you did work for the Rozzers and the Busies, right?
Yeah, but now that you've kind of, blown up the whole smuggling thing in Colombia, I mean, this looks crap.
Yeah.
So there was bombs
Basically,
included
she had
as
a
well.
job. That's it.
I was a woman who had a job.
The scandal.
I know.
Do you, talking about that, and we can't escape from the fact that you are a woman and you do have a job in cybersecurity,
I know.
right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you feel that a responsibility there at all because of being a pioneer from that point of view, of leading that female charge, because it is still largely a male-dominated environment, right? And we've already spoke about the trolling and stuff like that. You don't get trolled by women generally; you get trolled by men, right?
I don't really know anymore.
No, so, and obviously, if they're trolling you, you never know who's trolling you. But do you feel there's a responsibility there to stick your head above the parapet so it can be shot at, because that is eventually what will happen when you stick your head above the parapet, right?
I think it's really difficult because I see the struggle that a lot of women articulate, and I see that it's a very male-dominated industry. But in my experience, I've had a lot of support from male colleagues who have been really supportive and had a good laugh with, and I would never say I've felt that I am being ostracised in some capacity because I'm a woman, but I think that's because mafia connections and stuff, probably.
True.
When someone in your team wakes up with a horse's head in their bed, you're going to be a lot nicer than the next day, aren't you?
I think so. Which is why you do have a
so
stable
much
of
respect.
horses.
It's wonderful.
You don't get, you demand respect.
Yeah.
That's what happens in the Cosa Nostra. I think that's how you say it, isn't it?
It is, but they are Sicilian, and
Oh, are they?
yeah.
Okay. Do we not talk? No.
No, we're not friends with them.
No.
We're not friends
Do they
with
not
them.
like raccoons?
I don't know what their stance would be on raccoons. To be honest, I'm not interested.
I see. Oh dear me.
Your questions are brilliant. I don't know which one to ask now because I'm like, they're all fucking lying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not all of them are lies. Just
To be
those
fair,
7.
the ones that allude to me being mentally unstable are all true.
Right. Aren't we all? What else is there to go through with...
I think the de-stressing thing, so what you do to de-stress, in terms of your external activities. We've talked about caving and mountaineering, two highly dangerous things for some reason.
Actually, how do you get into that? Because I'm not... Do you do it with a harness or do you do free climbing? What's the thing? Because I've been climbing once and it's the most scared I've ever been. I was like, not doing that again.
That's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm just, no, there's stairs were created for a reason. I'm going up those, not climbing it, not doing it.
Yeah, I love it. I do a lot of ice climbing, which is like climbing vertical frozen waterfalls for fun with ice axes. Yeah.
Tell us about that fun with ice axes, your most recent incident with an ice axe.
Swung
Tell us
an
how
ice axe.
fun that was.
Swung it into my leg real hard.
Where was your leg? Don't you go up? Not missing something.
No.
I was at the bottom walking in and I was like swinging it like this and then I just swung it straight into my shin. I swore a lot.
I'm trying to picture this, like, how hard were you swinging it? Was it like probably into your leg?
No, the pick didn't go in, it was the hammer that
Much better.
went into the leg. It was so painful.
So you hadn't even... See, that's the thing. You haven't even started the exercise and you've already hurt yourself.
And like climbing is a super macho sport. It's mainly men and like super macho men. So when I'm like wanting to sit down and just cry because my leg feels like it's been smashed, I'm like, oh yeah, it was nothing. It was nothing at all. Yeah, I'm all good. No, it's fine. I'll lead this one. It's no problem. And you have to just kind of pretend like nothing happened.
But really you're crying
I
on the
was
inside.
literally dying inside.
Oh, that sounds horrid.
The noise was
And
like...
you carried on climbing?
Yeah.
No, I'd have cried.
Oh,
I'd
me
have sat
too.
there and cried.
Me too.
And then cried more if people didn't give me sympathy.
Yeah. I'd have called my dead mum.
You guys have definitely got it what it takes.
No, not even a little bit.
Absolutely
I tried paintball once, and that's when I knew I could never be in the military. It was on a stag do, and it was literally the first 24 seconds. And I'm not going to brag, but I'm pretty good at Call of Duty, so I'm ready for war. I am. If it all goes off, give me a controller. I am ready. So we're getting ready to do paintball, and I've got all of the gear on, countless magazines, and I'm there ready. And I went sneaking out, and as I put my hand out, someone shot me and it hit me here. I was like, don't want to play anymore. 3 days, I was like, no, not doing it. That hurt. Don't want to play. And then threw a strop and took all my stuff off, and when the stat went by, I was like, I'm not playing. It hurt. It was so that's as far as I'm going to go with something as extreme as that.
But you've gone extreme. Try Quasar. You just get a little bit of a vibration. It's quite nice.
It's like, it tickles. I'm not playing. Not doing it.
You guys are hardcore. I'm really impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got some real men sat over here.
Definitely
I
something.
I cry like a Marine.
I don't cry at all. Don't cry at all. Proper man.
That's because you're old. Your tear ducts don't work.
What am I doing here? I've forgotten where I am.
Help.
It's all right, Ian. Your carer's over there.
Oh, dear me. That's not even a lie.
So what else are you into? Have you always been into like extreme sports?
Always been a climber. Climbed with my dad when I was younger. Loved it. Carried on. Got into some sketchy situations.
I wanted to go climbing with my dad, but then he left.
Listen,
Cool.
I thought my dead mum comment would win that.
Jesus
But
Christ.
you've just topped her up, haven't you?
funny
with
'cause it's
with
true.
the shit parent side of things.
Yeah. So we've discussed blame culture and the problems that we get when facing breaches. What do you think we could do as a community then to turn that around and make it much more inclusive?
I think we need to start by seeing the fact that we're all on the same team, as in we're on the defensive team as opposed to the attackers who are on the offensive.
Do you think vendors play a part in that? Because that's one thing I have noticed. You will have a lot of vendors. Say you can have, how many different firewall vendors are there? So you get someone who's had a breach, and every other vendor that knows that company's got that specific model, then starts going, this is why you should use our product. And it becomes more about the sales as well now. So you get a lot of, is that something where vendors could actually now start coming together a lot more to actually help out?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think intelligence sharing best practice, and then just moderating your own behavior online. So if a breach happens and, Ian's company has a massive breach, then, instead of you and I, like, piling on him online, which we would, but, just imagine we didn't, we could moderate what we said, what we like, what we share that relates to that company, and just being more about how can we help those people, how can we support them, how can we give them intel, how can we help take down dumps of data that are online or whatever it is, as opposed to seeing it as, haha, it didn't happen to me, it happened to you, and I'm going to make a big scene out of it. Because ultimately, it's going to happen to all of us.
Because everyone does that, don't they? If there's, like, we've seen it when vendors have had some sort of a breach, and then every other vendor in their field has got a white paper like that as to what happened to that one, and they're using it all. get on the phone, speak to their customers, see if they want to jump ship. Everyone, and even like you think, what was it when Tesco's had a breach, and then all the other people were like, oh, your data's secure with us, not with them. So, does that play a big part into it?
Is it then easier because it's a brand, it's a thing, so it's not a person, right, or it's not a group of people, so you're not piling in then on a group of people. So if we tie it to what's happening in the Ukraine at the moment, everybody is on the side of the Ukraine because there's an aggressor, and that's in this scenario, that's the attacker, that's the bad person, but everybody is on the side of Ukraine because the human beings at the end of it. Is it because we never see an organisation as a group of human beings, we just see them as a brand? And I think if we start seeing the organisations or the people behind them as normal people, everyday people, because let's face it, people go to work to earn money, pay the mortgage and go on holiday once or twice a year, if they're lucky. They don't really care that much about the cybersecurity of the company. So I think if we see the organisation as a collection of people more, rather than a thing to point fingers at and say how bad you did it, that's when we start to turn the tide. That's, I think, when we start to... Because we've seen that community spirit just recently for the Ukraine with everybody behind them,
And for Italy in the Euros.
No.
So you go and ruin it.
No, you had to ruin it.
I had to do it. I had to do it, though.
Everything.
I had to take the shot.
Don't even sound Italian. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you to all of you for tuning in to listen to our podcast. Thanks to Lisa for joining us today.
Thanks, it's been an experience.
Follow us on all the socials at Technology Leaders Club. My name is Emmanuel Sonubi.
And I'm Ian Murphy.
Thanks for joining us. We will see you on the next episode.